I'm Anita Sharma. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, federal regulators set their timeline for what happens next with the San Onofre nuclear plant. Volunteers head out into the rain to tally up San Diego County's homeless population. Technology is supposed to make life easier, but for some people it means the end of a career. And we'll meet a legendary San Diego musician who spent his life searching for gold. Not the metal, but for golden tones. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Dwayne Brown and Peggy Pico are off tonight. By late April, we could know whether the operator of the San Onofre nuclear plant will be allowed to restart one reactor. Today, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission released a timeline for its review of the request. Inspections and technical evaluations are already underway, and public meetings are planned in February and April. By late April, a report on the inspections will be published, and the NRC will notify interested parties of its intent to issue a decision. The decision itself would come 5 to 30 days after that. The plant's been shut down nearly a year because of problems with its steam generator tubes. Local Assemblyman Ben Waso has introduced a bill to crack down on capital appreciation bonds as a way to finance school construction. Poway Unified came under fire after news that a $105 million loan will wind up costing taxpayers nearly $1 billion to repay. The bill limits these bonds to a 4-to-1 ratio of debt to principal. That is, no more than $4 paid back for every dollar borrowed. Districts would also have to produce public reports, including a comparison of the bonds to conventional financing. And the deals would have to include a way for districts to refinance if better terms become available. Hundreds of volunteers fanned across San Diego County today to get an accurate count of the region's homeless population. KPBS Business and Environment reporter Eric Anderson says it's easy to canvass urban regions, but volunteers are also scouring out-of-the-way places like the San Diego River.
So if we just go right over here.
Barbara Palin points to a small homeless encampment.
Okay, so 6 will tally.
Palin and Shannon Quigley Raymond are part of a small team of volunteers spending this wet morning checking up on people who normally aren't checked up on. They're scouring Mission Valley's thin slivers of wilderness along the San Diego River. Quigley Raymond says millions of people pass over, through, and by the riverbed, but very few actually see it.
The homeless people that do live in the riverbed are kind of out of sight, out of mind to many of us. Being in the riverbed quite often with volunteers and during cleanup activities, we see this a little bit more often.
Having a freeway overpass here provides some measure of cover, but having all these natural plants here also hides people from the outside world.
There's a well-worn path.
The crew assembled this morning is taking part in the countywide homeless census.
Like, for example, right over there where that guy is, we'll put a circle there and put 1.
And in order to find the homeless or their camps, that means looking under bridges, overpasses, and in the tangle of plants that choke off the flow of water through the valley. Dunya Brett is the project manager at the San Diego Regional Task Force on the Homeless. She surveys a color-coded map that shows the results of the most recent census. That survey put the region's homeless population at about 9,800. 6,400 homeless people were counted in the city of San Diego.
As accurate as we try to be, this is not 100%. This is our best guess, yeah.
And that best guess is critical because federal officials require an accurate census in order to tap into federal funding to fight the problem.
The bottom line is understanding what's really going on, and the best way to do that is to set eyes on our homeless neighbors.
The task force hopes to have the census completed by March. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
By this summer, Latinos are expected to surpass non-Hispanic whites as California's largest demographic group. At the same time, the state's white population is rapidly aging. From our Fronteras desk, Jill Replogle joins us to discuss what that means for the state's economy and workforce. Jill, we've seen this demographic shift coming for a while, right?
Yes. But what's interesting is the state government actually pinned a date, July 2013, when Latinos and non-Hispanic whites are expected to each make up 39% of California's population. And then after that, the Latino population will surpass that of non-Hispanic whites.
And this is from a demographic report attached to Governor Jerry Brown's budget proposal. What else was in that report?
The state's white population is rapidly aging, and we sort of knew that too. 43% of non-Hispanic whites will be at least 50 years old by July. And in contrast, the state's Latino population is much younger. And so the report notes that immigration will help replace baby boomers in the labor force. And that California really needs to work to continue to attract migrants through jobs and educational opportunities. I also talked to an economist, Giovanni Perry at UC Davis, and he pointed out that baby boomers are going to create a lot of demand for services like home care, and they'll also have money to spend on restaurants and recreation. And so he says, careful with assuming that Latinos are going to provide those services, because young Latinos are getting more educated and moving into better jobs. And he actually says we should start thinking about a guest worker program to bring in new immigrants to fill those service jobs for boomers.
Okay, Fronteras reporter Jill Replogle. Immigration reform is back on the front burner with renewed vigor. The White House announced today that President Barack Obama will begin his push to fix the immigration system next week. Joining me now is Fronteras senior editor Elisa Joyce Barba. Elisa, immigration reform pretty much fell by the wayside during the presidential campaign last year. And then suddenly, after the election, Obama says this is going to be one of his top priorities in his second term. And Republican senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham say that they're recommitting themselves to the issue. What happened? What changed? Is this simply about Latino voters?
Well, you know, it wasn't so much on the back burner during the election campaign. There was a lot of concern because Latinos were very unhappy because it was on the back burner during the first 4 years of the Obama administration. He had made promises about immigration reform, and he had not fulfilled those promises. He had some, you know, you remember the policy, the deferred action policy, which allows young people who were brought here illegally in a certain age, it allows them to get work permits. So that was kind of a gift to the Latino electorate. What happened was that the sleeping giant woke up. You know, hello, 71% of Latinos voted in favor of Barack Obama, and the GOP, the Republicans, basically within days after the election began to talk about, well, let's talk about immigration reform. So yes, it really is about politics. It's about giving something back to an electorate that put Obama back in, or helped put Obama back in the White House. But it's also dealing with, you know, a reality of a system that has a lot of problems, that is not meeting the needs of the people who want to come here and the people who need workers.
So what will the president likely propose? What will reform look like?
Well, we have some idea of what the elements of a proposal will be. The devil, of course, is going to be in the compromise, in the compromise and the negotiations that happen with both sides. I don't like using Democrat and Republican on this issue because it's really not it's not a party issue. There are people who favor more restrictive immigration laws and people who favor more flexible, more open immigration laws. The president is going to deal with a number of issues. The first one is going to be what's known as a path to citizenship. There's 11 million people who are here already. We're not going to deport them wholesale, and we have to deal with the fact that they are here without proper documentation, and we need to provide some kind of path to legalization or path to citizenship. How long that will take and what the details are, it's going to be a big part of the debate. Border security, border enforcement. We want to make sure that the border is as secure as it can possibly be. We've spent more on that in the last few years than on any other federal law enforcement agency, $18 billion, I think it was, in the last year. Arguably, the border is as secure as it ever can be. However, and here's the thing, is that the number of apprehensions of illegal immigrants crossing has fallen to its very, very lowest level. So there are not that many people coming in. That's because of the economy more than anything else. It's also because of stricter border enforcement.
Well, let's talk about the economy a little bit. One of the most contentious arguments against immigration reform comes from people who say, look, if you allow these undocumented immigrants to stay in the United States, whether that be through a guest worker program, path to citizenship, or some kind of legal status, they are going to take away jobs from Americans. The Fronteras Desk, of which you're a senior editor, is airing a series right now on reform. What are those stories revealing about this topic?
It's very interesting. I mean, we often hear that they're going to take jobs away from Americans, but here's the reality. They are here, and they're already in the workforce. I think they think that 8 to 9 million of the 11 million who are here are already working. They're not going to be taking jobs away because they're already part of the labor force. There is some competition for the lowest skilled jobs, like in construction and in agriculture, but actually, and I know this is a cliche, the fact is that it's hard to find enough Americans, legal workers, to take those jobs. That's what we're hearing from industry. So,
you know, there was a poll that came out this week by AP showing that 2/3 of Americans believe that a path to citizenship should be opened up for undocumented immigrants. Is this a shock?
I don't think it's a shock. No, I am a little wary of those polls because path to citizenship, what does that mean? As I keep saying, I think the devil is in the details. And Marco Rubio, Republican senator from Florida, is also talking about some kind of path to citizenship, path to legalization. But he says it's not an amnesty. It's not letting them off the hook. They're going to have to pay substantial fines. It's going to take a long time. They're going to have to jump through a lot of hurdles. So, again, what that's going to look like, and does it mean citizenship, which actually has political ramifications? Because if 11 million people suddenly become citizens and can vote, who are they going to vote for?
Very quickly, I want to jump in here and make a prediction. Are we going to have an immigration reform package approved by Congress by the end of the year?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Elisa Joyce Barba, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you, Amitha.
This was graduation day for some San Diego-based military men and women. They've spent the past 3 weeks getting ready to transition from military to civilian life with the help of Project Reboot. Translating military skills to civilian life is just part of the program.
Everybody who's transitioning needs to go through this program because it's not just about finding a job, and it's kind of like finding yourself.
A recent study shows Reboot to be 95% successful in helping graduates transition back into civilian life. 5 years since the Great Recession engulfed the world, the impact is clear. Millions of middle-class jobs have vanished. Experts now fear those jobs are lost for good, killed by sophisticated technology and smarter software. The story from Robert Ray of the Associated Press.
We were kind of warned that technology was going to come in through our department.
Art Lascano is a utility meter reader in Fresno, California. Thanks to technological advancements like the smart reader, his job is on the way out.
Here in Fresno, our workforce has decreased from approximately 50 meter readers down to currently we have about 10.
It's been 5 years since the Great Recession circled the world. The economy has taken its toll on the middle class. Both small and big businesses are replacing workers with technology. The most vulnerable people, those doing repetitive tasks that programmers can write software for.
We need to really, I think, worry a little bit. But we're going to see it all around us. It's very difficult to predict exactly where, but it will be low-skilled jobs and it will be high-skilled jobs. It will be white-collar jobs, people sitting in offices in front of computers. Will be replaced by algorithms.
In South Korea, some banks are closing branches, making everything self-serve, completely automated.
It is very convenient. I used to wait for a very long time to see a teller in the past. Living in these bustling times, these kind of things are very good to have.
Japan is no different. Some of the rail lines in Tokyo are completely automated. No conductors, just computerized systems. And in China, a recent newspaper headline read, "Chinese robot wars set to erupt." Factory automation systems in Atlanta, Georgia makes robots for American manufacturers. When the recession hit, business slipped away and layoffs occurred. And at that time, they realized that they could apply their own systems using their own technology to run leaner.
What's gone are repetitive factory-type jobs that are what I guess we call blue-collar in the past.
When we have an economy that doesn't need as much labor, what do those people do? That's the great question that's going to come along with the great restructuring.
Technological innovations have been throwing people out of jobs for centuries, but historically, more positions eventually get created. In our global economy, only time will tell. Robert Ray, Associated Press, Atlanta, Georgia.
A massive development being pitched for Carmel Valley in northern San Diego is provoking outcries from the community. The opposition calls itself What Price Main Street? Andy Keats, a reporter for Voice of San Diego, is covering the story. He joins me now. Before we launch into the specifics of the project, why should our viewers care?
Well, you know, so even if you don't live in Carmel Valley, and this isn't something that's going to have a direct effect on your life, this is the same type of fight that you could probably imagine happening all around San Diego. You know, there's growth projections that suggest the population, just based on people who already live here having children, is going to push the existing communities to start accommodating all sorts of population density that aren't in place right now. So with a project like this that brings in a lot of density, you're really seeing a precursor to some fights that might be going on in other communities in the next 20, 30 years.
You've described this project as a mega development. Why?
Well, it's just very big. You know, it's a 23.5 acre parcel. It's right at the Del Mar Heights and Camino Real Roads corner there. It's 600 housing units, 200,000 square feet of retail, 500,000 square feet of office space, almost 4,000 parking spaces. Within all that, you're going to see another 7 acres or so of open space. So, you know, you're really just talking about a very large project, let alone the fact that it's only, the parcel is already only entitled to 500,000 square feet of office space. So you're looking at 3 times that much. But even if you forget about the entitlements or what the ideal size is, 1.4 million square feet of development in any area is just a very large development.
And this very large development was discussed last night at a Planning Commission meeting. What happened there?
So the Planning Commission, which is ultimately going to render a vote, which will basically just serve as a suggestion to the citywide Planning Commission, who will then give a vote that would send the project to the City Council for a final approval. And they delayed that vote until the February meeting. But basically what happened last night was you had the developers came in and they outlined some recent reductions in the property that they had announced in November, and once again made their pitch for it. And they answered some questions, and then there was basically an airing of grievances, if you will, between supporters and opponents of the project.
And how did they number?
You know, there hasn't been any polling that at least has been made public that would give you a good indication of you know, what % of the community feels this way or what % of the community feels this way. I will say that there were a lot of people there for it and a lot of people there against it, and they all have very strong opinions.
And I believe there was somewhat of a surprise guest there. Who was it, and
yes.
What did he say?
Yeah, so Bob Filner showed up, Mayor Bob Filner showed up, and you know, the guy has a flair for the dramatic. He never minces words or shies away from a fight, and sure enough, he didn't last night either. He ripped the project. He ripped the developers for even having the audacity to come in, as he said, and their initial proposal was 2.1 million square feet. They've moved that down to 1.4 million, but as he said, that it was audacious for them to even think that they could propose something that was 4 times the existing entitlement for the area, and then suggest that they had respect for the community. So he basically said that he would fight the project, and he doesn't support it. So.
Now, I know you said that there aren't any polling numbers on who is for it and who's against it, but what's your sense of the opposition to this project? How strong are they?
I mean, it's Carmel Valley it's a wealthy area in town. It's an area where these are people who like their neighborhood. They bought into the community for the reason that, you know, that they liked the way it is, and they want to keep it that way. And so they're well armed with facts, and they strongly oppose this project. Also on their side is the developer who owns the property right next door to what would be One Paseo, the Del Mar Highlands area, and they have enlisted a lobbyist, Southwest Strategies, to lobby against the project in City Hall. So you know, it's a well-heeled opposition.
Okay. What is your sense of the effect that the developers scaling down of the project has had on the opposition? Has it made a dent in it?
No, it's had no effect at all. Basically, the way they look at it is, you came out with a project that was 4 times the size of the existing entitlement, and now you've reduced it to 3 times the size of the existing entitlement, and you're expecting us to be happy about that. And so, from their way of seeing things, it's why wouldn't you start instead at 500,000 square feet and then maybe try to have a conversation to increase it? One of the members of the planning board actually said something very similar to that last night. They've made these reductions, and it has, not insignificantly decreased the size of the project, but it hasn't really won them any support, at least not yet.
Andy Keats, thank you so much for speaking to us about this project. We're going to be hearing a lot more, I'm sure.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next NewsHour, Margaret Warner on location in Jerusalem and Ray Suarez at the Economic Summit in Switzerland, plus Shields and Brooks. It's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
Daniel Jackson has been making music since the 1940s. As a teenager, he hung out in front of San Diego's earliest jazz clubs on Imperial Avenue. Tonight, the local jazz community will celebrate the musician, thanks in part to a 2010 City Council declaration establishing Daniel Jackson Week. KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone visited Jackson at his home in southeast San Diego.
The first thing you see when you walk into Daniel Jackson's modest home is his piano. It's from the early 1900s, and Jackson bought it for $100. The piano is getting tuned when we arrive.
It's not great, but it won't disgrace you.
Jackson picks up his first and everlasting love, the saxophone, to help tune the piano. Jackson is 76. He lives in the house he grew up in, which was built in 1902. In fact, it was here in this front room that Jackson heard the tenor saxophone for the first time. His brother was in a band with sax player Harold Land.
I was still shooting marbles when he was playing.
They often practiced at the house, and Jackson would hide around the corner and listen.
And I heard this tenor saxophone. I was like, okay, that's it. That's where I want to be for the rest of my life, is on that sound.
Jackson credits his mother, Johnny Beatrice Jackson, with helping him stay on that sound. Right above his piano is a black and white photograph of her, sitting straight and proud.
She was a strong woman. I have a wealth of respect for any woman, but a woman in her situation, that's really something. But she came through like a champion.
Johnny Jackson lived with her husband and 3 children in the Quarters, an area of La Jolla where black domestic workers lived. She was a maid and her husband a chauffeur. But after her husband died of throat cancer, Johnny moved her 3 kids to this house in southeast San Diego.
She had a great job in front of her, and that was to raise 3 children, uneducated, and a black woman in white America. That was not easy.
For many years, she managed to pay for Jackson's saxophone lessons on a maid's salary. Today, Jackson is considered a local legend, one of the founding fathers of San Diego's jazz scene. But Jackson did leave San Diego for short stints. In the late 60s, he toured Europe with the Ray Charles Band.
Mother, you can look for my clothes home.
Jackson says most people don't know it, but Charles was a brilliant saxophonist.
He gave us a concert once, and it was terrifying. And the saxophone looked like it was so hot. Steam, heat was rising, and it was melting into these golden globes of tone.
After that tour, Jackson returned to San Diego. But making a living as a musician has always been a struggle, even to this day. Jackson taught himself to play piano and got a gig playing 6 nights a week at the Hotel del Coronado.
Yeah, I never made that much money before in my life.
Jackson still plays piano at Croce's downtown. He's been there for 30 years. As a young musician, one of Jackson's idols was the great saxophonist James Moody, who died in 2010.
Okay, this guy is my idol. He's my idol so much that these guys around here in the neighborhood, they have a tendency to give these people, all their neighbors and buddies and cousins and everything, nicknames. So they're calling me Young Moody. Because I love his music so much and I'm trying to sound like him.
Many years later, Moody showed up to watch Jackson play. The next day, they spent an afternoon hanging out at Moody's house in San Diego. At one point, Moody went upstairs and came back down with 2 grocery bags full of saxophone mouthpieces from all the years he'd been playing. He gave them to Jackson.
That mouthpiece right there was in one of those bags. I found that mouthpiece and it was a good mouthpiece for me.
It was later that Jackson discovered that Moody's name is etched into the brass mouthpiece.
I told his wife that. I said, you know, James is always with me. Wherever I go, I play that horn, he's there.
Jackson says he'll keep on playing music until he can't any longer. In his words, it's a labor of love and a quest to experience some part of divinity. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
And you can see Daniel Jackson perform tonight at Dizzy's, and you can find more information about Daniel Jackson Week on our website, kpbs.org. The Weather Service says we could get about another inch of rain tonight, and the rain is expected to last throughout the weekend along the coast. Inland areas could start to dry out by Sunday. It's not expected to be cold enough for snow in our local mountains, and the desert could start seeing a bit of sun by Sunday. Tonight's stories are online at kpbs.org/evening edition. You can also download the KPBS app at our website. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.